A very good morning to all of you. And for any queries, for anything you wish to ask, you can simply raise your hand and I can come to know, and then I can either note down your query and answer it at a later time, or I can answer it on the way. So anybody who gets a query, so it will become an interactive class, because at times it's important that as the lecture is continuing, you can definitely ask questions on the topic that is being discussed. And as we had left our talk yesterday on this particular spot, that we wish to know what is the scope of understanding the subject investment management, what all it covers. So we had of now tried to understand what is the meaning of investment, and what are the different investment avenues that are available, and what are the key points you have to keep in mind while making an investment. It could be key points for somebody, it could be constraints for some others. For example, age is a key point. That younger you are, you can enter into more risky investments. Whereas it is a constraint for a person who is 60s of age, is at the age of retirement, where his regular income is on a wane, it's on a lower side, or he doesn't have it at all. He's just sustaining on his regular income from fixed deposits or from pensions, and then he's got limited scope of adding income unless and until he doesn't have another source of income. So it could be a constraint for somebody, it could be. Then we try to understand what is risk. What is risk in case of a investment perspective. Here we understood that risk is something which is measurable and which is actually the quantum of event not taking place. For example, you invest for a return of 10%, and there is a risk of 20% of you not, plus minus 20% of you getting that particular return. So you may get a return of 8% or 12%. So this is what we meant by risk. And uncertainty is basically where we are just not able to measure the risk involved. So that is uncertainty. This is the difference between these two synonyms. Although they seem synonym, but then the difference is apart. And then investment management, the subject that we are going to understand more about in the coming lectures, is that it's about defining your investment policy, your philosophy. How does an investor define for himself or herself or a group of people the objectives of the investments? What are the constraints involved? What are the likes and dislikes, the preferences? This is you design for yourself. The formulation of an investment policy and a strategy and its execution. And then when you design a policy, what type of investment management thought process you should have, then you design a plan, a long-term plan, a short-term plan, a strategy, and then you try to execute it. Then you undertake the investment that are actually to take place and follow them up for their returns and for their performance evaluation. This is how you do it. By the way, am I audible to all of you? Will you please reply me back by raising your hands? Just
Yes,
raise your
sir.
hands. Okay, good, good. Muskan, I think, right, good, right. Okay, that's fine. I have 4 of you who have responded immediately. Jai Shankar, Lapreet and Mohammed Shafi. They have not responded. Jai Shankar, it seems, is looking for the...
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Are you aware where this particular button is where you can raise your hands? You can see it on
Yes,
the
I am aware of
dashboard.
it.
So become familiar with the software now. It's very easy to operate. You should unmute yourself if you have to answer. You should unmute yourself. There is a icon of a speaker out there on the dashboard. If there is a cross on that, this means you are mute. So you have to click on that to unmute yourself. Okay, coming back to the scope of investment management. So we should also understand how we have to create a bouquet of investment products. This bouquet of investment products is called the creation of a portfolio. And then you monitor its performance. And now basically we are talking about different investment avenues, and in the very first couple of lectures I had tried to make you understand that there are economic avenues of investment and then there are financial avenues of investment. We will not be talking about the economic avenues here. We will not be talking about land, building, or factories for that matter. We will be talking about the financial avenues available to the people, because people can invest in the financial avenues as of now wherever they are with great ease. So this is what has happened in the last 20 years in India, that today investment avenues have been opened up. And why they have been opened up, I will also tell you some history behind that, how things have evolved. And then you have to also undertake what is called analysis of the securities, the financial securities. The financial securities are broadly divided into two. They could be either equities or they could be debt. When I say debt, it could be debentures, company debentures, the fixed deposits, things like that. So how to evaluate them for their return and for their safety. So you should also understand all these things, for which we will be undertaking market research, analysis, how we take it, industry analysis, economic analysis, company analysis, and technical analysis. You should be able to know at the end of the course how we undertake these things. And then we should also know how to evaluate why a particular security would rise and to what extent, which is more important to understand. So there are certain models which we will come across which fairly give us a chance to understand how the valuations of securities takes place. And then you construct a portfolio. The construction of a portfolio depends upon the investment philosophy and the type of return you expect and type of risk you wish to undertake. And once the portfolio is created, you constantly monitor it for its performance, and then you keep on revising it over a period of time till the time you are to encash, monetize the whole portfolio, monetize the whole of the portfolio. So this is all about what management, investment management will be learning more about it. And so portfolio and investment, portfolio management, there's a definition for that. It's a combination of financial instruments, the securities purchased to meet certain financial goals. For example, you wish to have a return of 20%, or for that matter 15%. Now the risk element would be different for these two different goals of returns. But how to combine a bouquet of financial instruments in such a way that the objectives of returns are met despite the constraint of risk, or understanding the risk element. So this is how you design a portfolio. If you will remember for yourself that you must be knowing the word mutual fund. A mutual fund, are you all aware what is a mutual fund? May I have some yeses or no's? Mutual funds, please.
Yes, sir.
And
Sir.
you all clear, okay. Now mutual fund is basically a aggregation of money done by a fund manager on behalf of people who would not like to directly take into consideration investments because they feel they're not experts. They cannot evaluate the securities that are available in the market. So they give their monies in the hand of the experts. By doing this course, you can become one of those experts, right? So when you give this money to your expert, he plans a 50 crore corpus fund, or for that matter 100 crore corpus fund. Now these are funds that are available in India, but in abroad you'll be amazed to listen that young students, young financial experts of the age group of 25 to 30 are handling funds worth $10 billion, $15 billion. That's something very small for them. So there are financial experts who have got certain tools in place. They have got access to softwares. They have access to data which they can process and then work out on how to design a portfolio for a particular, objective of return and risk that has to be undertaken. So what is portfolio management? So this was about the portfolio. So what is portfolio management? So all tasks concerned with the accomplishment of the defined goals of the portfolio is called portfolio management. And as I said earlier, in my last lecture, that we shall be coming across the name of Mr. Markowitz. He is considered the father of portfolio management theories. He is the one who came up with the thought of portfolio creations and management. And he was, on a later dates, William Sharp and Eugene Fama, Eugene Fama, and John Linter and Ross are other experts who have written a lot about investment management, portfolio management, and we'll be discussing with them how they have contributed to this portfolio management theory. So portfolio management is a decision-making process of choosing, regularly monitoring, evaluating, and revising the combination of the financial instruments or securities to meet individual or investor objectives. Now, this particular definition, which is in bold, it covers all that we wish to understand about portfolio management. So it is identification of investors' requirement in terms of return and risk to be taken. Planning, it's also liquidity. There are other aspects of investments, if you remember, where we had come, the tax implications, the liquidity implication, all these things, etc., etc. So planning and investment policy and strategy. If you will remember, there are mutual funds which are called open-ended. There are mutual funds which are called close-ended. There are mutual funds which are called balanced funds. There are mutual funds which are called debt funds, pure equity funds. So these are the investment policies for which a particular investment bouquet or portfolio is designed. So you could join any of them or you could create any one of them. So implementing the strategy means investing money in the right avenues, whatever you have decided for, and then evaluating them and regulating the plan or the strategy over a period of time. This is about investment portfolio management. Is it clear, every one of you? Am I fine?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes,
Is
sir.
it okay? All right. So coming to the next slide, the process of investment decision making. Now, basically, whatever you have in mind, you keep in front of you the investable surplus that you have. For example, in your case, I have given you rupees 10 lakhs as fund, which you have to design a portfolio based on this particular amount that has been given to you. So you have to understand what should be your investment plan. Investable funds available has been made clear to you. Objectives, now you have to define your objectives. What type of return you expect, what type of risk you want to undertake. Identify the assets. Now let me tell you one thing. When we talk about investment avenues, there we talk about a new, a sort of aggregation of financial assets is called assets. This is a new terminology that has come up of late. For example, the asset class. We say metals is an asset class in itself. When you invest in gold, silver, or other precious metals, or for that matter in copper, or for that matter in, say, aluminium, these are asset classes. These are commodity asset classes. And then when you talk about asset classes of equities, we say financial assets, highly risky asset class, the equities. And we call the debt asset. The debt assets could be company debentures, they could be government bonds, and they could be municipal corporation bonds. And one thing I want to make clear with you, all of you, is that this particular industry, this particular study that we're doing there is very young to India. Although we talk about investment planning, we talk about the stock exchanges for more than 100 years or 125 years in India, but it was only after 1992 when the Harshad Mehta case came up when there was a big stock market guffaw and a lot of money was lost by the people, that the government woke up and we moved towards what is called a highly organized way of performing, undertaking investment analysis as well as undertaking investment in various financial instruments. There were proper vehicles available, the risks were mitigated, they were taken care of, and now we have a system in place where India is one of the fastest growing securities market, and there has been no default whatsoever. Ever since 1996, although we had a couple of very scary incidents in 2000 when we had a scam, a Ketan Parekh scam, but thereafter we have not seen any type of risk so long as the various objectives of an investment are to be met. So as an investment decision making process, you should understand what type of investment plan you have to work for yourself. So your assignment that of rupees 10 lakhs to be invested, you start working on it based on these particular fundamentals, where you know what is the amount of money that has been given to you. You should design an objective for yourself. Somebody may be happy with 10% return, somebody may be happy with 12%, somebody with 15%. Then you have to identify certain assets, certain securities, which will help you get such type of returns. Then you have to study the characteristics of the assets. You should also understand why you are choosing this particular asset, why you are choosing this particular equity to invest. And then you can allocate those funds. For example, you may allocate to, I'm giving an example, don't stick to my thought process alone. You can think on your own and design a portfolio for yourself. For example, I say I have an industry called energy. So in the energy space, I find that ONGC is one, IOL, Indian Oil Limited, IOCL, Indian Oil Corporation Limited is another, and Reliance Industries another. Say for example, so I wish to allocate 1 lakh of rupees for the purchase of equity shares of Reliance. But why, how, why I'm buying it? This is something we need to understand. We will be understanding these things more broadly when we'll be undertaking company analysis and industry analysis, where you'll come to know the fundamentals of selecting a particular asset. Then somebody can say that I want to invest in automobile industry. So when you talk about the automobile, you can talk about Maruti Udyog, you can talk about Mahindra and Mahindra, you can talk about Hindustan, Ashok Leyland, the Ashok Leyland group, and you could talk about Telco, the Tata Group people, wherever you wish to. You wish to invest in, say, the car business, you wish to invest in the motorcycle business, it could be Honda, Hero Motocorp, or you wish to invest in TVS, Suzuki. So it could be anything. So you have to understand this. What I'm trying basically that you start using your gray cells, using your brain in such a way that you think about the economy as a whole and the number of asset classes that are available. It could be, I said automobile, it could be, I said energy, then it could be consumer durables. You can talk about Hindustan Unilever. You can talk about ITC. You can talk about other companies who are providing consumer durables. These are providing consumer non-durables. When I say consumer durables, I mean the white goods. Companies like Videocon, companies like Godrej, who are offering you white goods like fridge, washing machines and things like that. So this is what you have to identify for yourself during the process of investment decision making. Then you have to undertake the investment analysis. You have to evaluate the risk and the return that would be offered by making commitment of your funds to a particular asset, right? Then valuation of financial security. This is something very important and very interesting, that why at all we invest money in a particular financial asset, and how do we try to understand empirically that what is the scope of future income and appreciation. When I say future income, this is in terms of dividends that you may get. And when I say appreciation, this means if you are investing in any financial security that is priced at rupees 100 today, what are its chances of being priced 140, 150 or 160 1 year down the line? This is the calculation which we wish to understand under valuation of financial securities. In case of debt securities, we are very clear. In case of debt securities, we are clear that the principal amount is fixed and the return is fixed. But then when we talk about bonds, bonds is altogether something different, where the return would be on a higher side in terms of the principal that you may receive. How it is done, we'll discuss and when we'll be undertake valuation of bonds. And then you try to create a portfolio which is diversified, which has a fixed tenure of investment, कि आपने उसको 1 साल के लिए सोचा, 2 महीने के लिए सोचा या 3 महीने के लिए सोचा, and then you know the entry and the exit. It should be so easy for you to enter or exit any asset class. This should be the beauty of your portfolio. And how to purchase the securities, where to purchase them. You should know what is the technicals involved and how things are actually done in the case of the Indian financial system. And then you should constantly evaluate your portfolio and you should be in a position to revise it. So this is about the investment decision making process. Is it okay with this slide, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
fine.
sir.
All right. Anything anybody wishes to ask? Anything that comes in your mind? Anyone? Okay, then I'll just recollect for you. There are some key terms you should keep in mind. Return on investment, ROI. So the definition of ROI is income received plus price change. Income received plus price change, say divided by the purchase price of the asset. Say for example, you buy something for rupees 100. You invest in a share, in an equity share at rupees 100. You buy 100 of them for 100 rupees each. So you have made an investment of 1000 rupees, 10,000 rupees. Now for 10,000 rupees, you get a dividend of say 400 rupees. So 400 rupees you get dividend after 1 year. And that particular investment of your 100, that enhances to 102 rupees after 1 year, or to 100, on an easier side, say 110 rupees. So you will be able to sell that particular security for 11,000 rupees. So you're getting a gain of 1,000 rupees on an investment of 10,000 rupees with an additional income of 400 rupees as dividend. So your actual return is 1,400 rupees. And you're divided by your purchase price of the asset, 100. So your rate of return is something like 11.4%. Now I've done it orally. Was it fast or you all understood what I've done? Hello? Am I clear what I said?
Yes, sir.
So you,
Yes,
this is
sir.
called,
Yes, sir.
okay. So this is called return on investment. And then one is called rate of return. Rate of return is a slightly different formula. So it's annual income plus year-end price minus the price at the beginning of the year divided by the purchase, purchase at the beginning of the year. So this is it. So this is the rate of return. So these are some key terms you should all understand. And on the way, you can do one thing. You can browse your internet and you can come across some financial terms or terms used in investment management. Now these terms are used globally. You should be able to understand these terms, what they actually mean, and you should be able to use them very frequently, and you should be able to also understand when somebody speaks out those particular terms. So make yourself familiar with these terms. And let me tell you one thing more. I have posted you certain lecture notes today on the WhatsApp group. What you can do is you can download them through your email, And these notes, I find them very simple and they're very, very, thorough in themselves. After going through these notes, I am very sure that you'll be understanding this subject very well, and there will be no doubt you'll be experts at the end of this particular course. So this is all about it, and we come to the next slide. And another some terms which should be very clear to you, and what is the meaning of risk and uncertainty. Although you've done it. So unpredictability of return is risk or uncertainty. Risk can be quantified, whereas uncertainty cannot be quantified. For example, you buy into a stock of Reliance Industries. You buy a share of Reliance Industries. Now, you are uncertain whether it will rise or it will fall. But given some basic information to evaluate it, you are becoming certain about its returns. Will it be on a lower side or a high? You're becoming certain. And how much of that particular assessment will go wrong is the risk that you're taking. So information with you basically does away with uncertainty, and then you are able to gauge the quantum of risk that you may take. So you are able to quantify what the risk is in investing in a particular financial asset. This is about risk and uncertainty. ये बहुत ही important point है बेटा, because this is the foundation stone of investment. Some unsystematic risk, the risks that are there in the business, the risks that could be there into the financial system of the nation, the risk that could be there in the political scenario, the political environment of that nation. So you should understand the distinction between what are the risks which are controllable and what are the risks which are not controllable. Based on this particular two aspects of risks, we shall be understanding that what risks we are to assume they are there. So you have to live with them. And there could be certain risks which you may reduce. When you design a portfolio, the primary objective of the fund manager is to reduce the risk in such a way that the risk comes as close as possible to the system risk. You don't take risk which is more than the systemic risk. कि जो सिस्टम में रिस्क है उससे ज़्यादा रिस्क ना लें और अपने पोर्टफोलियो को ऐसे डिज़ाइन करें कि you have some risky investments, you have some very non-risky investments, and the cumulative sum of all these comes down to the level of system risk. That is the beauty of portfolio management. But you have to compromise on return. Keep it in mind. You compromise definitely on the return. Because if you are trying to reduce risk, you are also reducing the element of return that you may get from that particular portfolio. But then you should be very clear, because based on these two things, we'll try to understand what security market line is and what capital market line is in one of the later chapters. So you'll be very clear about systemic risk and unsystemic risks. Okay. Then we should also understand there are some physical assets, financial assets, and intangible assets. As I said earlier, physical asset is one which you can feel, see. For example, you buy a piece of land. So you have some dimensions. You have land breadth, and you can see. You buy land, you buy building. You know how many floors it's constructed, how many rooms are there, what it is built up of. Is it of concrete? Is it of wood? Whatever it is. So these are physical assets. We don't talk about them. We talk about financial assets. Financial assets, we talk about, say, fixed deposits, we talk about bonds, we talk about equity shares, we talk about debentures, company debentures, and we may talk about what is called investing in shares of companies across the Indian borders in the New York Stock Exchange or the London Stock Exchange. These are called ADRs or GDRs. Now these are certain terms which I've used for the first time. ADRs and GDRs. Today, India में रहने वाले, they are allowed by the government of India to invest their hard-earned money, their savings, if they so wish, into risky investments of companies like Apple, companies like Microsoft, companies like Facebook, who are listed on the New York Stock Exchange, and they are the American companies, or for that matter in companies like Jaguar, or for companies like BAT Industries, which are native of UK. Alternately, people can invest in companies of India through the Bombay Stock Exchange or the New York Stock Exchange. So these are the financial intangible assets. Now, intangible assets are those assets which are not, we cannot see them. Can any one of you name one instance of an intangible assets? It's a 100 rupee question to all the students who are attending the class as of now. If somebody speaks out correctly, I will immediately transfer rupees 100 to the UPI to his bank account. Any example of an
goodwill.
intangible asset?
Sir,
Goodwill, copyright, goodwill, trademark.
Who said copyright?
Sir,
Who said copyright? Copyright कौन बोला?
Sir, Muskan.
मुस्कान, बेटा copyright is not considered as an intangible asset. जब आपने किसी चीज का copyright ले लिया, that's it's not intangible. वो सबको मालूम पड़ गया.
Okay, sir.
Anybody बताएगा?
Sir, goodwill is an intangible asset.
पहले तो मैंने कहा था anybody who answers, he or she will say I am such and such person. पहले introduce करो अपने आप को. This is the system. This is the rule of the online class. बताइए.
It's me, Salma,
हाँ.
and the intangible asset is goodwill. Goodwill of a firm.
Speak loudly. Speak loudly.
Sir, it's goodwill of a firm.
That's great. Excellent. Goodwill of a firm is an intangible asset. That's the correct answer. What you will be doing now, Salma, is you'll be sending me your mobile number and I'll be transferring you rupees, right? You can send it on the group, WhatsApp group, right?
Okay, sir.
And another intangible asset is basically the brand image, which is very important to understand. Goodwill is basically part of a brand image. The brand image, as we discussed in the marketing parlance, is something which is an intangible asset. And then there are theories, number of ways to evaluate them. For example, anybody is more comfortable buying something, buying an equity share of Hindustan Unilever than buying Patanjali, an equity in Patanjali. So this is about, you should understand these things, and then you should understand what savings means, what is an investment, what is the difference between investment and speculation, what is the difference between investment and gambling. You should be very clear about them. There are some very thin points and there are some stark, differences between investment, speculation and gambling. You should be very clear about them. And then you should be also clear about what is the physical investment that you make when you buy gold, which is in the shape of a biscuit, or which is in the shape of jewelry. That is the physical investment that you make. And what is the financial instrument, financial investment when you buy into a fixed deposit of a bank, or when you buy into a debenture of a company, that is a financial investment, or when you buy equity of a company, that's a financial investment. Then another thing you should understand, what is direct and what is indirect. Direct investment is when you yourself buy into the financial asset or any investment you make yourself on your own. Indirect is when you go through somebody. For example, buying into an equity stock through a mutual fund is an indirect investment mode. And then you should also understand what is marketable and non-marketable investment. Equity shares are very marketable, they're liquid, they're very marketable. And for that matter, land and building is marketable through the third party, but they are usually non-marketable. You cannot sell them as and when you wish to sell them. You cannot. And then there are transferable and non-transferable investments. For example, an FDR that is in your name is not transferable. No, it's not transferable. But equity shares are transferable. You can transfer them to your brother, to your sister, or you could sell them to somebody for a consideration and it gets transferred in the books of the accounts of the company. And then you should understand about security analysis and valuation. These are certain terms which you should be clear about. Portfolio construction, how to make a portfolio, how to evaluate it and how to revise it. Then we should also understand what is a primary market, what is a secondary market, what is a derivatives market, what is forex, foreign exchange market, and what is spot market. This is the last line that contains all these terms. We'll be coming across one by one in these coming lectures, which are very important to understand, and I think you should be able to understand the topics and go through this subject very well. Then you should understand what are money markets and what are call market. Call market is a market where banks borrow funds overnight from another bank. And then you should understand what are treasury bills, T-bills. Treasury bills are amount that is offered to the RBI for 14 days, 91 days, 182 days or 364 days. And they are more than 1 crore rupees investment. They do not go beyond 364 days. So treasury bills is the money that is raised by the Reserve Bank of India on behalf of the Government of India. It could be, the instrument could be beyond 1 crore rupees and they could be for 14 days, 91 days, 182 days or 364 days. Interbank market, what is LIBOR? I think everybody is aware about LIBOR. London Interbank Official Rate. You should understand that this is the benchmark rate, interest rate at which one bank offers loan, money or surplus funds that it has overnight to another bank, or for that matter for a particular period of time, say 30 days, 40 days or 60 days. It's like this. Then you have certificate of deposits. These are money that is extended to the companies by the bankers on behalf of their clients or on their own to a company. A company requires 50 crore rupees as a short-term money. It is about to buy a raw material for 60 days of its working. It knows it is very dirt cheap, but after 2 months it will be on a higher side, so it wants to buy them. It needs money, so it will go for a certificate of deposit. And similarly, commercial paper is market. This is quite similar to certificates of deposits, which are negotiable instruments. They are saleable. You can, if you need money before 60 days, then you can sell that particular certificate of deposit on a commercial paper market, which is endorsable. It's like this. And then ready forward contracts, the repo markets. This is something very important which we'll discuss in derivatives. The forward contract, the future contract. We'll try to understand more there. You should understand what it is all about. Intercorporate deposit market, where companies give money to each other through the intermediaries, the banks, right? And similarly, you have the commercial bill market where you discount certain bills. Certain bills are discounted by people who carry money with them. For example, a commercial bill, a company has got a tanker, oil tanker. Now, oil tanker carries oil from one nation to the other nation. Now, it takes about 30 days time for that particular tanker to reach its destination. Now that particular tanker company knows that it is going to be paid a sum of rupees, say 10 million, 10 crore rupees or 50 crore rupees as transportation charges. But it will receive that 50 crore rupees after 1 month. Now they require the money immediately after 10 days. So what they do is, they go to the commercial bill market and they pledge that particular bill of transportation to another person who says, okay, I won't pay you 50 crore rupees, I pay you 49 crore rupees. Are you happy? I will charge you 1 crore rupees, giving you money 20 days before you could realize it. Because that particular 50 crore was realizable after 30 days. And after 10 days you need that money. So 20 days you are paying a cost of 1 crore rupees to the tune of, you are paying a cost of 1 crore rupees for a period of 20 days, but getting the money in advance ahead of others. Now this gentleman who will buy that particular bill from you, the transportation bill from you, he will then present this particular bill to the person who is receiving that tanker and the oil, and he will make that money good to you as an investor. So this is how the commercial market, bill market works. So then these are certain terms as the stock markets, what are they all about, spot markets and financial intermediaries. I think with this particular talk of the last 4 lectures, I've been able to communicate what investment meaning is, what risk and return means, and how allocation of assets means, how a portfolio is created, what are the considerations that are kept to mind with regards to the risk and the reward aspect. And in the global markets, I've just touched that today we are in a position to invest in the global markets to the tune of $250,000 per month, per year, per individual, as per the current RBI limits, which keeps on changing every time. So I close my talk of the day, and from the first unit, I think I have covered the half of it. And in the next lecture, I'll start about the organization and functioning of securities markets. So in the meantime, I've shared some notes with you, which you can go through. You can put some questions to me, whatever comes to your mind in the next chapter, in the next class, and then we'll continue with the securities market analysis. Anything else you all wish to know? Anything else, beta?
No, sir.
Achha. Although I was very
No, sir.
fast today, but am I clear about what I was talking?
Yes, sir.
It was all clear.
Yes, sir.
That's great.